2322.
I did, Mr. Chair, and let me just thank you and Supervisor Spiegel for joining me and bringing this resolution forward as well. Over a recent weekend in Los Angeles County, there was an upsetting and sickening incident that occurred as an anti-Semitic hate group gathered on the 405 freeway overpass, hanging a banner in support of anti-Jewish remarks and doing Nazi salutes. And I find it concerning anytime there is bigotry. As someone posted about this, what purpose does hanging these signs and doing the Nazi salute have other than inciting violence against Jewish people? This comes during a time in which, according to the Anti-Defamation League, there's been an all-time high in anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S., and actually that was reiterated today this morning on NPR News. I have heard from residents of the 4th District that these are scary times, and I've also received a comment that something similar happened in the region, in the 4th, as well as even in the Temecula area a few months back. So I think it's important that we speak out to say that such acts are not tolerated and that we stand up for human rights and use our voice to educate and work to stop anti-Semitism. I have a few passages I'd like to read from an article. This article came out in the USC Annenberg media. Senior Rabbi Steve Leder said anti-Semitism tends to operate on a pendulum. Throughout history, it's held various levels of influence over societies. It doesn't matter where that pendulum lands now or how much influence Kanye truly wields, because a little bit of hatred, once ignored, becomes metastatic. Whether they know it or not, people have power to stop the spread of anti-Semitism, Leder said. Everyone exerts influence and power in their own social circles, and fighting back could be as simple as calling out those around us when they engage in anti-Semitic behavior. So I believe that we all have a light to share, a light that can dispel the darkness and hate, and we can use our light to stand up for what's right and root out hate, bigotry, and prejudice. That we in the county of Riverside stand for inclusion and diversity. In a county with folks of many different ethnicities, religions, and backgrounds, that everyone should feel safe, respected, and live together in peace. With that said, I also want to bring attention to the fact that there are resources online and in our local community that help counter ignorance and inhumanity and help educate the community to recognize the forms of hate-based prejudice and how to combat them. The Anti-Defamation League website, www.adl.org. Under the resources section, there is a guide called Anti-Semitism Uncovered that addresses the historical roots of anti-Semitism and deconstructs the persistent anti-Semitic myths. The Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University San Bernardino campus that researches hate crimes and extremism. The Holocaust Museum in LA. And in the 4th District, we have the Desert Holocaust Memorial in Palm Desert, next to my office, and the Tolerance Education Center in Rancho Mirage. These organizations teach history and accounts of those who suffered and survived atrocities and genocides, in order to empower those who visit to take a more active role in creating a more humane society. These resources are critical, especially in a time where, unfortunately, there is a shocking lack of knowledge on basic facts on the Holocaust among many adults under the age of 40. I'd like to thank you for this time to address this issue. We call on all residents of Riverside County to help and unite in support of stopping anti-Semitism, hatred, bigotry, and violence. And I ask for your approval, and before I ask Supervisor Spiegel and my colleagues to speak on the item, just want to say a thank you to Ms. Cheryl and her family for reaching out to my office and asking me and really just stating out loud that this is not acceptable, and I'd be willing to present this Form 11 to the County of Riverside, and I appreciate her giving me that phone call. As she was once my 3rd grade school teacher, she still teaches me to this day. Thank you, Ms. Cheryl.
Thank you. Supervisor Spiegel.
Yes, thank you very much, Supervisor Perez. This was very much appreciated for you to take the lead on this. Just a little bit concerning, if you've been watching any of the news on almost all stations have addressed the increase in anti-Semitism, particularly right now because back in 1938, November was a pogrom, which is looting and all the different things that began. November 9th and 10th, if you've ever heard Kristallnacht, it was in Nazi Germany, and that was the beginning of the actual mistreatment of Jews. It started in 1933, in the beginning of the war, but the 1938 was the Kristallnacht, which was the looting of all the Jewish businesses and the destruction and taking of folks. I even had my my mother-in-law's family was taken, and her father was taken on that night of Kristallnacht of November 9th, 1938, and he perished in the camps. And that was the beginning of the severe taking of folks and putting them in the concentration camps. So the timing of this and the beginning of the Kristallnacht, and this is the beginning of the real persecution of Jews during the Nazi era. So I appreciate the awareness. I think awareness is one of the most important things. It is alarming because when you have Kristallnacht programs, we have very few Holocaust survivors left. And we were having one come to a congregation in Corona to speak, and they're now a little alarmed to come out to California, particularly Southern California, to come from the East Coast and to come and address a group. So it's something that is people need to be wide-eyed and realize that color of skin is not the only persecution and discrimination that's been happening, and that we have to look beyond just the color of skin, that we have to look about not excluding people. You know, inclusion is limited, but when you don't exclude anybody is really what we need to look for. And that's a hard thing in a country that has been doing it all along. From the very beginning we have. And this is just another way of raising awareness, and thank you again, Supervisor Perez, that we need to take a stand and say it's not okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments? You know, I'd like to add just one thing that, you know, we know about the Holocaust, we know about all those horrible things that happened, but as late as in the 1960s and 70s, out in the 4th District, actually, where people came out and formed these exclusive country clubs. There was one, I believe it was in Rancho Mirage or wherever, that did not allow Jews to be members.
Also in Riverside.
And so what they did is the Jews got together and made the Thunderbird Country Club and such. And of course now we see those, that there are no barriers to either. And a lot of times the answers just lie in people realizing that everybody holds a golf club the same way or this or that, and we've got to get past that. But it's at every level, and hopefully by making people aware of what's still going on, we can make it better in the future. That passes 5-0.